I watched my best friend lose $40 million in 6 months. He called me at 2 in the morning crying. He said, Charlie, I don't know what to do. I have nothing left. And you know what the worst part was? It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a market crash. It wasn't fraud. He destroyed himself with one decision that took him from wealthy to bankrupt in half a year. And as I sat there listening to him break down on the phone, I realized this is what happens when you know how to make money, but you have no idea how to keep it. I'm Charlie Munger. I'm 99 years old, and I've been wealthy for over 60 years. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, getting rich is easy compared to staying rich. I've watched hundreds of people build fortunes and lose everything. Lottery winners, business owners, successful investors, gone. And it's not because they were stupid, it's because they never learned the one strategy that protects wealth forever. The strategy that saved me through every market crash, every recession, every disaster for 6 decades. And if you don't learn this strategy, you will lose everything you've built. I've seen it happen too many times, but I know exactly how to make sure it never happens to you. Before we go deeper, I need something from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me, what city are you watching from, and what's your biggest fear about money? Are you afraid of losing what you've built? Worried about the next recession? Scared you'll make one mistake that costs you everything? Be honest. No judgment here. And here's what I want you to promise me right now. Watch this entire video till the end, not for me, for your own financial growth, because what I'm about to share in the next 30 minutes could save you from losing everything. The people who stay wealthy are the ones who finish what they start. They commit to learning. They don't quit halfway through. So promise me, you'll watch till the end. Your future self will thank you. Most importantly, trust yourself. The fact that you're here learning about wealth protection means you're thinking long term. That puts you ahead of 95% of people. Trust that instinct. Let me tell you about my friend. His name was David. We went to law school together. Brilliant guy. Built a real estate business from nothing. By the time he was 50, he was worth $40 million. Multiple properties, steady cash flow, set for life. And then he made one decision that destroyed everything. He met a business partner who had an opportunity, a development deal that promised huge returns, luxury condos in a growing market. The projections looked incredible, $50 million in profit if everything went right. And David got excited, he got greedy. He took out loans against his properties. He liquidated investments. He put everything into this one deal. And for a while, it looked brilliant. Construction started. Pre-sales were strong. He was walking around telling everyone he was going to be worth $100 million by the end of the year. Then the market shifted. Interest rates went up. Buyers backed out. Construction costs doubled. The project stalled. And David was stuck. He had debt he couldn't service, properties he couldn't sell, a project that was bleeding money every month. Within 6 months, he lost everything. The properties went into foreclosure, the project went bankrupt, his partners sued him, and he was left with nothing but debt, $40 million gone. And that phone call at 2 in the morning, that was him realizing his entire life had just collapsed. He said, Charlie, I worked 30 years to build this, and I destroyed it in 6 months. How do I come back from this? And I'll tell you what I told him. You come back by never making that mistake again. You come back by learning the one strategy that makes sure you never lose everything. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. But you have to stay with me. Every minute of this video contains lessons that took me 70 years to learn. Don't cheat yourself by leaving early. The strategy is this. Diversification is not enough. You need anti-fragility. Let me explain what that means, because this is the most important concept in wealth protection, and almost nobody understands it. Most people think diversification means owning different things. You own stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some gold. And if one goes down, the others protect you. And that's what every financial advisor tells you. And it's not wrong, it's just incomplete, because diversification protects you from losing everything, but it doesn't protect you from losing a lot. It's defensive. It says, I'm going to spread my risk so no single failure destroys me. And that's fine, but it's not enough, because in a major crisis, everything goes down together. In 2008, stocks crashed, real estate crashed. Diversification didn't save people. It just meant they lost money in multiple places instead of one. Anti-fragility is different. Anti-fragility doesn't just protect you from loss. It positions you to benefit from chaos. It's the idea that your wealth doesn't just survive disasters, it actually grows stronger because of them. And this is what separates people who stay rich from people who lose everything. Most people's wealth is fragile. When something goes wrong, it breaks. Some people's wealth is robust. When something goes wrong, it survives. But the wealthy who stay wealthy for generations, their wealth is anti-fragile. When something goes wrong, they get stronger. And I'm going to show you exactly how to build anti-fragile wealth. The concept comes from understanding that the world is fundamentally uncertain. You cannot predict the future. You cannot control external events. But you can structure your wealth so that uncertainty works in your favor instead of against you. Think about it this way. A wine glass is fragile. If you drop it, it breaks. That's most people's wealth. One bad event and it's destroyed. A plastic cup is robust. If you drop it, it survives but doesn't benefit. That's diversified wealth. It survives shocks but doesn't grow from them. But what if I told you there's a third category, something that actually gets better when you drop it? That sounds impossible, but it exists in nature. Your immune system is anti-fragile. Every time it encounters a pathogen and survives, it gets stronger. Your muscles are anti-fragile. Every time you stress them through exercise, they grow. And your wealth can be anti-fragile too. Every crisis, every downturn, every disaster can make you stronger if you structure it correctly. And that's what I'm teaching you today. Stay with me because we're about to go deep into exactly how to do this. The first principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: never put yourself in a position where you can lose everything. This sounds obvious, but almost everyone violates this principle. David violated it. He took on too much leverage. He put too much money in one investment. He made a bet he couldn't afford to lose. And when something went wrong, and something always goes wrong, he was destroyed. Let me give you the math that will save your financial life. If you lose 50% of your wealth, you need a 100% return just to get back to even. Think about that. If you have $1 million and you lose half, you're down to 500,000. To get back to 1 million, you need to double your money. That's a 100% return. And 100% returns don't happen often. So a 50% loss is catastrophic. It can take you a decade to recover. But if you never lose 50%, you never have that problem. But the math gets even worse. If you lose 75% of your wealth, you need a 300% return to get back to even. If you lose 90%, you need a 900% return. Do you see the pattern? The deeper the hole, the harder it is to climb out. So the absolute priority in wealth building is never dig a hole so deep you can't get out. This is why I've always been obsessed with avoiding catastrophic loss. Not because I'm afraid of risk. I've taken plenty of risks in my life, but I've never taken a risk that could destroy me completely. Every risk I've taken has been calibrated so that if I'm wrong, I survive. And survival is what gives you the ability to try again. This is critical. Write this down. Survival always comes before growth, because if you don't survive, there is no growth. You're out of the game permanently. So here's the rule. Structure your wealth so that no single event can cause a catastrophic loss. What does that mean practically? It means you never use so much leverage that a market downturn wipes you out. It means you never concentrate so much wealth in one investment that its failure destroys you. It means you always have enough liquidity that you never have to sell at the wrong time. Let me be specific. I've never had more than 25% of my net worth in any single investment. Never. Even when I was absolutely certain something would work, I capped my exposure at 25%. Why? Because I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I lose 25%, not 100%. And if I lose 25%, I can recover. But if I lose everything, I'm done. This discipline, never risking more than you can afford to lose. This is what keeps you rich forever. David's mistake was putting 100% into one deal. If he had put 25%, he would have lost 10 million. Painful, but survivable. He'd still have 30 million. He could have recovered. He could have learned from the mistake and moved forward. But he went all in, and all in means when you're wrong, you're done. There's no recovery. There's no second chance. You're starting from zero, or worse, from negative because of debt. So write this down. Never concentrate more than 25% of your wealth in any single investment, no matter how good it looks. No matter how certain you are, no matter how much smarter you think you are than everyone else. This one rule will save you from 90% of wealth-destroying decisions. And I need you to hear this because later in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to implement this principle, even if you've already violated it. So keep watching. And let me tell you why people violate this rule, because understanding the psychology is important. People violate this rule because they want to get rich fast. They see an opportunity and they think, if I put everything in, I'll make so much money. And they're not wrong. Sometimes it works. Sometimes people bet everything and win. But here's what they don't see. For every person who bets everything and wins, there are 99 people who bet everything and wins. There are 99 people who bet everything and wins. There are 99 people who bet everything and lose. You just don't hear about them. They disappear. They're not giving interviews about their success. They're quietly rebuilding their lives after financial destruction. So when you see someone who bet everything and won, understand you're looking at survivor bias. You're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing the lottery winner, not the millions who lost. And that's dangerous, because it makes you think, maybe I can be the exception. But you probably can't. And even if you can, is it worth the risk? The second principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: always have optionality. Optionality means you have choices. You're never forced into a decision. You're never desperate. You can wait for the right opportunity. And this is incredibly powerful because most wealth is lost when people are forced to make decisions under pressure. David lost his wealth because he had no optionality. When the project started failing, he couldn't wait. He couldn't walk away. He was locked in with massive debt and no alternatives. He had to keep pouring money into a failing project because stopping meant losing everything immediately. And that desperation, that lack of options, that's what killed him financially. He was forced to throw good money after bad. He was forced to take on more debt. He was forced to sell assets at terrible prices, all because he had no options. So the question is, how do you build optionality? You build optionality by always having more resources than you're currently using. You have cash you're not spending. You have credit you're not borrowing. You have assets you're not selling. You have time you're not committed. This creates slack in your system, and slack gives you options. Most people run their finances at maximum capacity. They invest every dollar. They use all their credit. They commit all their time. And they think this is efficient. They think, why let money sit in cash, earning nothing, when I could invest it? Why keep credit available when I could use it to make more money? But this thinking is dangerous because it eliminates slack. And without slack, you have no options. You're running at 100% capacity, which means any disruption breaks the system. This is why I'm telling you to watch till the end. Because in the final section, I'm going to give you the exact formula for how much slack to maintain at every level of wealth. Let me give you a specific example from my own life. In the 1980s, there was a real estate opportunity I wanted to pursue. The numbers looked great, the timing seemed perfect, but I didn't have cash immediately available. I could have borrowed, I could have sold other assets. But both options would have forced me into a decision under pressure. Borrowing would have added leverage I didn't want. Selling would have triggered taxes and forced me to liquidate positions I wanted to keep. So instead, I waited. 6 months later, I had the cash and the opportunity was still there. I bought it on my terms with no leverage, with no desperation, and it turned out to be one of my best investments. But here's the key. If I had been desperate, if I had to do the deal right then, I would have taken on risk I didn't need. And maybe it still would have worked out. But maybe it wouldn't have. And the difference between maybe and certainty is what keeps you rich. So here's the rule. Always maintain at least 20% of your net worth in cash or extremely liquid assets. Always. I don't care how good the market looks. I don't care how confident you are in your investments. Keep 20% liquid, because that 20% gives you options. It means when everyone else is desperate, you're calm. When everyone else is selling, you're buying. When everyone else is panicking, you're making rational decisions. And that difference, that ability to act from strength instead of desperation, that's what compounds into generational wealth. David had zero liquidity. Everything was tied up in properties and the development deal. So when he needed cash, he had to borrow at terrible terms. And when he couldn't service the debt, he had to sell at fire sale prices. If he had kept 20% liquid, $8 million in cash, he could have weathered the storm. He could have waited for the market to recover. He could have negotiated better terms with creditors. He could have made strategic decisions instead of desperate ones. But he had no options. And no options equals financial death. And let me address the objection I know you're thinking. Charlie, if I keep 20% in cash, I'm losing money to inflation. I'm missing out on investment returns. Yes, you are. That's the cost of optionality. That 20% will underperform. But here's what you're buying with that underperformance. You're buying the ability to act when everyone else can't. You're buying the ability to survive disasters. You're buying the ability to seize opportunities. And over a lifetime, those abilities are worth far more than the few percentage points you give up. Because the person with cash during a crisis can buy assets at 50 cents on the dollar. They can double or triple their money in a year. Meanwhile, the person with no cash is selling at 50 cents on the dollar just to survive. So yes, that 20% underperforms in normal times, but it massively outperforms in crisis times. And crisis times are when fortunes are made and lost. Stay with me, because I'm about to show you how this played out in my own life during 2008. The third principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: build income streams that don't require your time. Most people think wealth is about net worth, how much you're worth on paper, but that's not what keeps you rich. What keeps you rich is cash flow. Specifically, cash flow that doesn't depend on you working. Because if your income requires you to work, you're not really wealthy, you're just well paid. And well paid is fragile. If you get sick, income stops. If you get tired, income stops. If the market changes, income stops. If you have a bad year, income stops. You're on a treadmill, and the moment you step off, everything collapses. This is the trap most high earners fall into. They make $300,000, $500,000, even $1 million per year, and they feel wealthy. But they're working 80 hours per week to make that income. And if they stop working, the income stops immediately. But if you have income streams that don't require your time, you're anti-fragile. Because even if everything else goes wrong, money keeps coming in. And as long as money is coming in, you can survive anything. You can wait out recessions. You can recover from mistakes. You can take your time making decisions. This is the difference between being financially independent and being financially invincible. Financial independence means you don't have to work. Financial invincibility means your wealth generates more than you spend without any effort from you. And invincibility is what protects you forever. Let me be specific about what I mean. Dividends from stocks you own, that's income that doesn't require your time. Rent from properties you own, that's income that doesn't require your time. Royalties from intellectual property you created, that's income that doesn't require your time. Interest from bonds you hold, that's income that doesn't require your time. Distributions from businesses you own but don't operate, that's income that doesn't require your time. These income streams keep flowing whether you're working or not, whether you're healthy or sick, whether the economy is good or bad. This is what protects you. Because as long as your expenses are lower than your passive income, you're financially invincible. You literally cannot go broke. You can wait out any crisis. You can make decisions based on what's smart, not what's necessary. David's income was entirely dependent on active deals. He had to keep doing transactions to make money. He had to keep finding new projects, negotiating new deals, managing new developments. So when the market froze and deals stopped happening, his income stopped completely. And when income stops but expenses continue, you have a catastrophic problem. If he had structured his wealth to produce passive income, rental properties that cash flowed, dividend stocks, bonds, businesses run by others, he would have had cash coming in every month, even while the development deal failed. That income could have covered his basic expenses. It could have serviced some of his debt. It could have given him time to figure things out without immediate panic. But he had no passive income. And when active income stopped, he had nothing. Within 3 months, he couldn't pay his bills. Within 6 months, he lost everything. So here's the rule. Your goal is not just to build wealth, it's to build wealth that produces income. Every investment decision should be evaluated not just on potential return, but on whether it produces cash flow. Real estate that generates rent? Yes. Stocks that pay dividends? Yes. Businesses that produce profit without your daily involvement? Yes. Bonds that pay interest? Yes. Speculative assets that might go up in value but produce nothing in the meantime? Only as a small percentage of your portfolio, because wealth that produces nothing is fragile. It just sits there hoping to appreciate, and hope is not a strategy. But wealth that produces income is anti-fragile. Even if the asset value drops, you're still getting paid, and as long as you're getting paid, you can hold through any downturn. And I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. I care more about the income my investments produce than I care about their market value. Let me explain why. If I own a stock that pays me $50,000 per year in dividends, and the stock price drops 30%, have I actually lost anything? Not really. The stock still pays me $50,000 per year. My income hasn't changed. The only thing that changed is a number on a screen showing what someone else might pay for my stock today. But I'm not selling today, so that number is irrelevant. As long as the dividend keeps coming, I'm fine. In fact, if the stock drops and I have cash available, I can buy more shares at the lower price, which increases my future income. So market volatility doesn't scare me, it creates opportunity. This is anti-fragility. The thing that destroys fragile investors, price drops, actually benefits me because I'm focused on income, not price. Keep watching because I'm about to show you exactly how to calculate how much passive income you need to be financially invincible. The fourth principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: assume you're wrong about everything. This is the hardest principle for people to accept because we all want to believe we're smart. We want to believe we've done our research, we've made the right call, we know what's going to happen. David believed he was right. He had done the analysis, he had looked at the projections, he had consulted with experts. He was convinced the deal would work. And maybe in a different timeline, it did work. But in this timeline, he was wrong. And because he built his entire financial life assuming he was right, when he turned out to be wrong, he lost everything. That's the danger of certainty. Certainty makes you concentrate. Certainty makes you use leverage. Certainty makes you ignore alternatives. And certainty destroys wealth. The people who stay rich are the people who build their wealth, assuming they're wrong about everything. What does that mean? It means you never bet everything on one prediction. It means you never assume things will go as planned. It means you always have a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. It means you build redundancy into every system. Let me give you an example. Let's say you believe the stock market is going to do well over the next 10 years. You might be right. Historically, the market goes up over long periods. But you might be wrong. There could be a depression. There could be a war. There could be a technological disruption that changes everything. So if you believe the market will do well, fine. Put a significant portion of your wealth there, but not everything. Put some in real estate. Put some in bonds. Put some in cash. Put some in businesses. Put some in precious metals. Because if you're wrong about the market, you're not wrong about everything. And that's the difference. David was wrong about one thing, the real estate development. And because he had everything there, being wrong about one thing meant losing everything. But if you spread your assumptions across multiple assets, being wrong about one thing just means you lose on that one thing. The rest keeps working. And that's anti-fragility. Your wealth doesn't depend on being right. It depends on not being catastrophically wrong. And the only way to not be catastrophically wrong is to never bet everything on one prediction. This is why I've always been comfortable saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the market will go up or down next year. I don't know if there will be a recession. I don't know if interest rates will rise or fall. And because I don't know, I build my wealth to survive any scenario. I have assets that do well in inflation. I have assets that do well in deflation. I have assets that do well when the market goes up. I have assets that hold value when the market goes down. No matter what happens, part of my portfolio wins. And the parts that don't win are small enough that their failure doesn't matter. Think about it this way. If you know what's going to happen, you should concentrate. If you're certain the stock market will double, put everything there. But you're not certain. Nobody is. So you diversify across possibilities. Some money in assets that do well if the market goes up. Some money in assets that do well if the market goes down. Some money in assets that do well if inflation rises. Some money in assets that do well if deflation hits. This way, no matter what happens, part of your wealth thrives. And the parts that don't thrive, they're small enough that their failure doesn't matter. This is anti-fragile thinking. You're not trying to predict the future. You're trying to survive and profit from any future. And I need you to understand this deeply because in a moment, I'm going to show you the exact asset allocation that has protected me through 6 decades of chaos. But you have to stay till the end to get it. The fifth principle of anti-fragile wealth is this: prepare for disasters before they happen. Most people are reactive. They wait until something goes wrong and then they scramble to fix it. But by then it's too late. The damage is done. The opportunities are gone. David didn't prepare for a market downturn. He didn't prepare for rising interest rates. He didn't prepare for construction delays. He assumed everything would go smoothly. And when it didn't, he had no plan. So he panicked. And panic leads to bad decisions. And bad decisions when you're desperate are how you lose everything. If he had spent even 1 hour thinking through what could go wrong and how he'd respond, he might have survived. But he didn't. He was too busy focusing on what would go right. This is human nature. We're optimists. We want to believe things will work out. But the wealthy who stay wealthy are paranoid optimists. They hope for the best but prepare for the worst. The wealthy who stay wealthy are proactive. They think about what could go wrong before it goes wrong, and they build systems to protect themselves. Let me give you specific examples of what this looks like in practice. Insurance. Most people see insurance as an expense, something they have to buy but hope never to use. I see insurance as anti-fragility. Life insurance protects your family if you die. Disability insurance protects your income if you can't work. Liability insurance protects your assets if you get sued. Property insurance protects your real estate from disaster. Health insurance protects you from medical bankruptcy. These insurances cost money, yes, but they prevent catastrophic loss, and preventing catastrophic loss is what keeps you rich. David had no insurance on his development project. When costs overran, he had no coverage. When contractors failed, he had no recourse. When buyers backed out, he had no protection. If he had paid for insurance that covered some of these risks, he might have survived. But he saved money on insurance premiums, and it cost him $40 million. Think about insurance this way. It's a bet you hope to lose. You pay premiums hoping you never need to make a claim, and if you never make a claim, you lost money on premiums, but that's actually winning, because what you bought was peace of mind and protection from catastrophe. I've paid millions in insurance premiums over my life, and I've made very few claims. So did I waste that money? No. I bought protection, and that protection allowed me to take risks I couldn't have taken otherwise. When you know you're insured against disaster, you can be more aggressive in your investments. You can take calculated risks because you know the downside is capped. This is anti-fragility, using insurance to limit your losses while keeping your gains unlimited. Emergency funds. I keep at least 2 years of living expenses in cash. Always. Even when I was young and building wealth, I kept this reserve. Why? Because if everything goes wrong, if I lose all income, if the market crashes, if every business fails, I have 2 years to figure things out without panic, 2 years to make good decisions instead of desperate ones, 2 years to wait for opportunities instead of being forced to act. David had no emergency fund. All his cash was invested. So when income stopped, he immediately had a crisis. Within months, he couldn't pay bills. He had to start borrowing immediately. If he had 2 years of expenses saved, maybe $3 million for his lifestyle, he could have waited out the market downturn. He could have let the project sit until conditions improved. But he didn't. So he was forced to make desperate decisions immediately. And desperate decisions are bad decisions. Now, I want to talk about something most people never consider: redundancy. In engineering, redundancy means having backup systems. If one system fails, another takes over. Your wealth needs redundancy too. Multiple income streams, so if one fails, others continue. Multiple asset classes, so if one crashes, others hold value. Multiple geographic locations, so if one market collapses, others sustain you. Multiple legal entities, so if one gets sued, others are protected. This redundancy costs money and reduces efficiency, but it prevents catastrophic failure. And over a lifetime, preventing catastrophic failure is more valuable than maximizing efficiency, because you only need to fail catastrophically once for your wealth journey to end. But if you never fail catastrophically, time compounds in your favor forever. Let me tell you what happened to David after he lost everything. He's 60 now. He's starting over. He got a job as a consultant. He's saving again, building slowly. And you know what he told me last year? He said, "Charlie, I'll never make that mistake again. If I build wealth again, I'm doing it your way. Slow, diversified, anti-fragile. No big swings, no leverage, no desperation, just steady, protected growth." And I told him, that's the only way that works long term. Because getting rich twice is possible, but if you lose everything twice, you're done. You run out of time, you run out of energy, you run out of belief, you run out of relationships who will support you. So you have to get it right, and getting it right means building anti-fragile wealth. Now let me bring this all together, because I want you to understand this isn't 5 separate strategies. This is one complete system. Anti-fragile wealth has 5 principles that work together. 1, never concentrate more than 25% of your wealth in any single investment. 2, always maintain at least 20% of your net worth in liquid cash or near cash assets. 3, Build income streams that don't require your time until passive income exceeds your expenses. 4. Assume you're wrong about everything and diversify across scenarios, not just assets. 5. Prepare for disasters before they happen with insurance, emergency funds, redundancy, and proper legal structures. These 5 principles work together as one integrated system, and when you build your wealth this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop being afraid. You stop checking the news every day, worrying about crashes. You stop losing sleep over market volatility. You stop panicking when things go wrong, because you know, no matter what happens, you're protected. Your wealth can handle it. You've built in so much protection, so much redundancy, so much preparation, that no single disaster can destroy you. And when you're not afraid, you make better decisions. You can wait for great opportunities instead of chasing mediocre ones. You can think long-term instead of reacting short-term. You can act from strength instead of desperation. You can say no to bad deals without fear of missing out. And that calm, patient, strategic approach, that's what compounds into extraordinary wealth over decades. This is how Warren Buffett and I built Berkshire Hathaway, not by taking huge risks, not by betting everything on one idea, not by using massive leverage or making concentrated bets, but by building an anti-fragile system that survived and thrived through every disaster for 60 years. We survived the stagflation of the 1970s. We survived the crash of 1987. We survived the dot-com bubble. We survived the financial crisis of 2008. We survived the pandemic crash of 2020. And we didn't just survive, we got stronger from each crisis. Because when you're anti-fragile, chaos is your friend. Everyone else is panicking and selling, you're calm and buying. Everyone else is desperate for cash, you have cash to deploy. Everyone else is forced to accept bad terms. You can dictate terms. This is the power of anti-fragility. So here's what I want you to do right now. Take out a piece of paper and write down your answers to these 5 questions. 1, what percentage of my wealth is concentrated in my single largest investment? If it's more than 25%, you have concentration risk. Write down the exact number. 2, how many months of expenses do I have in liquid cash? If it's less than 6 months, ideally less than 24 months, you have liquidity risk. Write down the number 3. What percentage of my monthly expenses is covered by passive income that doesn't require my time? If it's less than 100%, you have income risk. Write down the percentage. 4. What assumptions is my wealth based on, and what happens if I'm wrong about each one? If you don't have clear answers, you have assumption risk. Write them down. 5. What disasters am I not prepared for, and what would happen if they occurred tomorrow? If you can list disasters you haven't prepared for, you have preparation risk. Write them all down. These 5 questions will show you exactly where your wealth is fragile, and once you know where it's fragile, you can fix it. Maybe you need to sell some concentrated positions and diversify. Maybe you need to build up cash reserves, even if it means liquidating some investments. Maybe you need to shift toward income-producing assets like dividend stocks or rental properties. Maybe you need to buy insurance you've been avoiding. Maybe you need to set up legal structures to protect assets. But whatever you need to do, do it now, not next year, not when you have more money. Now, before disaster strikes. Because I can tell you from watching David and hundreds of others over 7 decades, you don't want to learn these lessons the hard way. The hard way costs decades. The hard way costs relationships. The hard way costs your confidence and your belief in yourself. The hard way might cost you everything. Learn from other people's mistakes instead of making them yourself. That's wisdom, and wisdom is what keeps you rich. Build anti-fragile wealth starting today. And you'll never have to make that 2 a.m. phone call to someone you trust, crying because you've lost everything. You'll never have to explain to your family that the life they had is gone. You'll never have to start over at 60. You'll build wealth that lasts forever and protects everyone you love. I'm 99 years old. I've been wealthy longer than most people live. And the only reason I've stayed wealthy is because I never gave fate the chance to take it all away. I built systems that survive anything, and now you know those systems. Every principle I've shared today took me decades to learn. Some I learned from my own mistakes, some I learned from watching others fail. But all of them work. All of them will protect you. All of them will keep you rich if you implement them. You watched till the end. That means you're serious. That means you're committed. That means you're different from the 95% who quit halfway through. Now take what you learned and use it. Build anti-fragile wealth. Protect your future and build a legacy that lasts forever.